What if the person you trusted most, the one who promised to cherish and protect you, was secretly plotting your death? What if the loving gestures, the small gifts, and the daily routines were all part of a chilling facade hiding a deadly plan? Rosie Essa never imagined that her end would come not from a stranger in the night, but from the man she shared her life with. The cyanide that claimed her life was hidden not in a shadowy alley, but in something as ordinary as a calcium pill, a symbol of care turned into an instrument of murder. How could love curdle into something so sinister? And what does this story reveal about the masks people wear to conceal their darkest intentions? Welcome to True Crime Acts, where we look into the hidden truths behind some of the most chilling real-life events. Our mission is to uncover the stories that shock, educate, and spark change, reminding us that behind every headline is a victim, a family, and a ripple effect felt by an entire community. If you find this journey as important as we do, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to ensure you never miss another gripping exploration into the depths of human behavior. On the morning of February 24, 2005, everything seemed ordinary in the Essa household. Rosie Essa, a 38-year-old vibrant mother of two, started her day like any other. Her husband, Yazid Essa, a respected emergency room physician, was already preparing for work. Their children, still in their pajamas, filled the home with laughter. Nothing hinted at the horror that would soon unfold. As Rosie prepared to leave for a movie with her sister, Yazid handed her a bottle of calcium pills. His gesture seemed thoughtful. After all, Rosie had recently mentioned wanting to boost her health. Yazid insisted, "Take them now, it'll help." Rosie, trusting her husband implicitly, swallowed the pills without hesitation. Rosie got into her SUV, unaware of the deadly secret hiding within those innocent-looking capsules. Minutes later, as she drove down the familiar Cleveland streets, a sudden wave of nausea overcame her. Her hands trembled on the steering wheel. She managed to call her friend Eva, gasping that she felt unwell. Her words were slurred, her voice weak. Eva's concern grew as the call abruptly ended. Rosie's SUV veered off the road, striking a van in a low-speed collision. Bystanders rushed to help, but Rosie was barely conscious, her skin pale, her breathing labored. The paramedics arrived swiftly, but nothing about her symptoms added up. There were no visible injuries, no signs of trauma. What had caused this vibrant young woman to spiral into this state of distress so quickly? As Rosie was rushed to the hospital, where she was later pronounced dead, an unsettling question began to linger. How could a seemingly healthy woman collapse so suddenly? And was her husband's act of kindness really something more sinister? The emergency room was a whirlwind of activity. Doctors and nurses scrambled to stabilize Rosie, but nothing seemed to work. She had no history of heart issues, no known allergies, and no immediate signs of poisoning. Yet, her body was shutting down rapidly. Yazid Essa arrived at the hospital, his demeanor calm, too calm. He inquired about his wife's condition, but did not display the desperation of a husband fearing for his wife's life. Friends and family noted how he maintained a strange detachment, as if he already knew what the outcome would be. When Rosie was pronounced dead, the shockwaves hit everyone but Yazid. He did not break down, he did not ask how it happened. Instead, he focused on logistics, arrangements, formalities, while Rosie's family crumbled around him. The doctors struggled to determine the cause of death. Initial tests were inconclusive, showing no toxins in her system and no physical injuries to explain her sudden demise. The mystery deepened when Eva, Rosie's friend, mentioned the phone call. She relayed how Rosie had felt ill after taking calcium pills given to her by Yazid. The doctors ordered further tests, this time searching for rare poisons or less common causes of sudden illness. As whispers of foul play began to circulate, the question became impossible to ignore. Could the calcium pills have been more than they seemed? And if so, what motive could anyone have for wanting Rosie dead? Weeks passed, and the toxicology results finally arrived. What they revealed was nothing short of chilling: cyanide poisoning. The tests showed that Rosie had ingested a lethal dose of cyanide, a substance known for its rapid and brutal effects on the body. Cyanide disrupts the body's ability to use oxygen, essentially suffocating the cells from within. But how had Rosie ingested cyanide? The investigation led authorities back to the calcium pills. Each pill was tested, and it became clear that several had been tampered with. 9 of the capsules contained deadly cyanide. The calcium pills had been transformed into lethal weapons. Investigators now had evidence of a calculated poisoning. The next logical step was to determine who had access to the pills and the opportunity to tamper with them. All signs pointed to the person who had handed them to Rosie that fateful morning. Her husband, Yazid Essa. The detectives began to scrutinize Yazid's life. They uncovered financial records, phone logs, and witness statements. They found that Yazid had recently increased Rosie's life insurance policy and had been acting suspiciously distant in the weeks leading up to her death. But even as evidence mounted, the full extent of his betrayal was still hidden beneath the surface. Had Yazid Essa really killed his wife for money, or was there a darker motive yet to be uncovered? As investigators dug deeper into Yazid's personal life, they uncovered a web of secrets. Yazid, the esteemed ER doctor and devoted husband, had been living a double life. He had multiple mistresses, 2 of whom worked as nannies for the couple's children. He had lavishly spent money on them, taking trips and buying expensive gifts, all while presenting a facade of a loving family man. His affairs were not merely fleeting romances, but fully developed relationships built on lies. His mistresses had no idea he was married, let alone that he had children. Yazid had even spoken to them about a future together, painting a picture of a life free from the complications of his current marriage. The motive behind Rosie's murder became clearer. Divorce would have been expensive and damaging to Yazid's reputation. He stood to gain significantly from Rosie's life insurance, and with her out of the picture, he could freely continue his relationships without the burden of a marriage. Yazid's calculated plan now seemed obvious. The poisoned pills, the calm demeanor, the quick move to manage Rosie's affairs, all pointed to a premeditated act. Yet investigators still needed one more piece to the puzzle, a confession or undeniable proof of his involvement. Would Yazid continue to lie, or would the truth finally force its way to the surface? As the investigation zeroed in on him, Yazid Essa did the unthinkable. He fled the country. Using his Lebanese heritage to his advantage, he escaped to Beirut, a country with no extradition treaty with the United States. He adopted a new identity and began a life on the run, confident that he had escaped justice. While abroad, Yazid displayed an arrogance that would ultimately contribute to his downfall. He frequented nightclubs, openly discussed his wife's murder, and even bragged about outsmarting U.S. authorities. His overconfidence led to a slip-up. He traveled to Cyprus, where U.S. officials could reach him. An international operation ensued. U.S. authorities worked tirelessly with Cypriot officials, and after a prolonged legal battle, Yazid was finally extradited back to the United States to face murder charges. His capture was a significant victory, but his trial was still to come. The stage was set for a legal showdown that would expose every dark secret, every calculated move, and every chilling detail of his cyanide conspiracy. Would Yazid Essa finally face justice for his wife's murder, or would his defense find a way to twist the truth yet again? The trial of Yazid Essa became a national sensation. Journalists crowded the courthouse steps, and true crime enthusiasts analyzed every twist. The prosecution painted a picture of a man consumed by greed and desire, a man who had seen his wife not as a partner, but as an obstacle to his freedom. They presented evidence meticulously. The toxicology reports showing cyanide poisoning, the altered calcium pills, and the trail of deceit that led directly to Yazid. Key witnesses, including Rosie's friends and family, took the stand. They spoke of Yazid's strange behavior after Rosie's death and his sudden interest in the life insurance payout. The defense attempted to deflect. They suggested that Rosie's death could have been accidental, or that perhaps someone else had tampered with the pills. But their arguments faltered under the weight of the evidence. When the prosecution played the recording of Yazid speaking candidly about his crime while in Cyprus, the courtroom fell silent. His words, once spoken in arrogance, now echoed with a damning finality. As closing arguments concluded, the jury was left with a simple yet powerful question. Was this a tragic accident or a premeditated act of murder? Would the jurors see through Yazid's lies, or would he manage to manipulate his way to freedom once more? The jury deliberated for days, weighing every piece of evidence, every testimony. Outside, crowds gathered, holding signs calling for justice. The tension was palpable. Reporters analyzed every movement, every interaction, speculating on what the verdict might be. Finally, the doors opened. The jury filed in, their faces solemn. The judge asked if they had reached a verdict. The four persons stood, unfolding a piece of paper with trembling hands. Guilty. The word sent a ripple through the room. Rosie's family wept openly, their grief a mix of sorrow and relief. Yazid Essa, the once confident doctor, showed the first signs of fear. His expression hardened as the judge read out his sentence. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. But even as the legal chapter closed, the emotional wounds remained raw. Would justice bring healing to Rosie's loved ones, or were they destined to carry the scars of this betrayal forever? With Yazid behind bars, life slowly resumed for Rosie's family. Her children, now under the care of relatives, began to rebuild their lives, but the shadow of their mother's death loomed large. They had lost not only a mother, but also a father. Though Yazid's presence had long been tainted by his crimes, Rosie's family became advocates, speaking out against domestic betrayal and pushing for better support for those trapped in dangerous relationships. Her story served as a haunting reminder that danger often hides in plain sight, sometimes behind the warm smile of a loved one. Meanwhile, Yazid adjusted to his new reality. No longer the charming doctor, he was just another inmate, his name now synonymous with betrayal. He appealed his conviction multiple times, but each attempt was denied. His life of deception had led him to a cell where the truth was inescapable. Could Rosie's legacy inspire others to recognize the signs of a dangerous relationship before it was too late? Rosie's death had a profound impact not just on her family, but on the entire community. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers felt compelled to honor her memory. Schools organized awareness programs, and local organizations began offering workshops on recognizing the red flags of manipulation and betrayal. Her children, guided by the strength of their extended family, began to thrive. They shared stories of their mother, not focusing on the tragedy of her death, but on the joy she brought to their lives. They carried forward her love, ensuring that her light continued to shine despite the darkness cast by Yazid's actions. The story of Rosie and Yazid Essa became a case study in criminal psychology courses. It served as a reminder that evil does not always wear a mask of cruelty. Sometimes it smiles warmly from across the breakfast table. Would sharing her story prevent another tragedy, or would history find a way to repeat itself? The conviction of Yazid Essa brought a semblance of closure to Rosie's family and the community that mourned her. The guilty verdict, the sentencing, and the judge's stern words marked the end of a long and painful journey through the legal system. But beyond the courtroom's walls, the ripples of the crime continued to spread, touching lives, altering perceptions, and raising questions that no trial could fully answer. Rosie's story became a symbol of hidden dangers and the silent threats that can exist within the sanctity of a marriage. Many who followed the case found themselves looking at their own relationships through a more critical lens, wondering if they too could be blind to a hidden threat. It was not just the horror of Rosie's death, but the methodical nature of Yazid's actions that haunted those who learned of the case. He was not an obvious villain, but a well-respected doctor, a father, a man who wore normalcy like a second skin while harboring murderous intent. In the aftermath, local organizations held seminars on recognizing abuse and manipulation. Schools introduced programs teaching young adults about healthy relationships and the signs of coercive control. Rosie's family established a foundation in her name, focusing on advocacy and support for those who felt trapped in dangerous situations. They wanted Rosie's legacy to be more than a cautionary tale. They wanted it to be a lifeline for others. Yet, for all the awareness raised and the changes implemented, certain truths remained elusive. The question of why Yazid chose to destroy the life he had helped create gnawed at everyone involved. Was it greed, the allure of a new life with his mistress, or something darker, an inherent lack of empathy, a psychopath hiding in plain sight? These were not just legal or psychological questions, but deeply human ones, touching on the complexities of love, betrayal, and the fragile nature of trust. As the years passed, Rosie's story became woven into the community's collective memory. It was a story told not just to warn of the dangers of toxic relationships, but to celebrate a life that had been lived with kindness and grace. Her children, who had grown up under the shadow of this tragedy, became advocates themselves, sharing their mother's story with a strength that turned pain into purpose. The story of Rosie Essa is not just about a crime, but about the enduring power of truth and the resilience of those left behind. It serves as a stark reminder that evil can wear a familiar face and that vigilance and compassion are our strongest defenses. The question that lingers is not just about Yazid's motives, but about our own vigilance. How well do we truly know the people we let into our lives, and what unseen dangers might we be ignoring simply because they wear a friendly smile? Rosie Essa's story is more than a tale of betrayal and murder. It's a sobering reminder of the hidden dangers that can exist within the walls of our own homes. Her death shines a light on the importance of recognizing the signs of manipulation, the subtle red flags that often go unnoticed until it's too late. If this story resonated with you, don't let it end here. Share Rosie's story, talk about it, and use it as a reminder to check in on those around you. You never know whose life you might save by simply asking, "Are you okay?" If you or someone you know is struggling in a dangerous relationship, reach out. There are resources, support lines, and communities ready to help. You are not alone, and there is always a way out, even when the path seems shrouded in darkness. For more true crime stories that expose the unsettling realities of our world, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and remember, sometimes the truth lies just beneath the surface, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover it.